This conference will now be recorded.
Put on your announcement. After that, I'll okay.
I don't know where everything is. I can't find it.
I think Toby should be in charge of that.
What, Toby, why not? No?
It's all right. I'll figure it out.
So we'll go and call this meeting to order. Mike, would you please take the roll?
Counselor Halverson,
Here.
Counselor Marujo, Counselor Moore,
Here.
Counselor Chapel, absent. Counselor Arnold,
Present.
have a quorum now.
Hey, I do, have to say we do not have a quorum since Counselor Moore is not here physically in person and did not inform the clerk within 24 hours. We're gonna have a Open Meetings Act violation, so we don't have a quorum. So today.
Inform who? Sorry, inform me what has changed. I don't understand what has changed.
Well, it hasn't
Go ahead.
changed, it's just, it hasn't been adhered to, but you have to inform the clerk 24 hours in advance. You won't be present for the meeting.
So telling you and Mr. Mike wasn't enough. I have to tell the clerk too?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, it'd be nice for y'all to, so things are changing and y'all are not informing. So that's, I mean, how?
Well, Councilor Moore, you actually voted on this procedure a few years back. So the
Well, you
governing
keep
body
saying
rules
what you voted on, but that's not something y'all could have, never mind. That's, whatever. Y'all keep saying these things, but I've been there 6 years and this has never never had this problem. And all of a sudden, this is what has happened years ago. And all of a sudden now it's not a quorum. Why be here if it's not going to be a quorum? I might as well hang up the phone and let y'all do what you do. If it's not going to be a quorum, if you're not in person, I've never heard of that before.
So the governing body rules of order, well, let me back up. The Open Meetings Act requires that to appear telephonically, the governing body must provide for a method to appear and that it is otherwise difficult or impossible to attend. The Attorney General has said that this participation should only occur where circumstances beyond the member's control would make attendance in person extremely burdensome. We incorporated that language into the governing body rules of order. This was adopted in 2017. And it provides that members unable to make a meeting shall endeavor to notify the clerk within 24 hours in advance of the meeting. Continuing, a member of the governing body may participate in the meeting by means of telephonic conference or similar communications when it is otherwise difficult or impossible for a member to attend in person. So by incorporating that OAG language, what we're saying is only when it's otherwise outside of your control to not attend would you be excused and able to use telephonic.
So you're still welcome to stay. We're not going to vote on anything. We're still going to discuss what's like the animal ordinance and then get the reports and the public input.
So you have to say that I'm absent on the roll.
Yes. She left one. Okay, moving on. We will discuss the animal ordinance. We're going to have to skip the condemnations. And then we're going to review and consider the amendments to chapter 4 of the city code. So, Mr. Rankin, would you like to go over those? Oh, yes, sir.
No, we're going to do that first.
Yeah. You have it with you? I can go over it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I went over.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of cosmetic changes that, that Friends had put in. There's only a few that I really wanted to harp on, again, so get some constructive stuff this afternoon. So the big things that the public should be aware of in particular are microchipping is now a more inclusive definition. So microchips have to be compatible with an ISO universal scanner. Failure to microchip and register will now carry a small fine, $45. Similarly, or not similarly, but additionally, vicious dogs, the definition has been changed. Succinctly put, if you need 2 or more stitches as a result of the dog bite, the dog will be considered vicious. This syncs up with other municipalities in the state. Some other things that are kind of big, we've increased certain penalties. Most notably, we will prohibit people from owning animals if they're convicted of animal cruelty instead of just a $50 fine. I think we're all on board with that one.
Mhm.
Hope so. Fine, let's see. There is an increase in the amount of rabbit and poultry that one may keep. 5 rabbits of the same sex, please. You don't want thousands of rabbits. Similar to 6 chickens, 4 ducks, 6 quail, or 4 turkeys, or any combination thereof not to exceed 6 on 4/10 of an acre. So the addition is quail. So if you like those little tiny delicious eggs, there you go. As far as cats and dogs, we have reformed the inoculation schedule. So we've added some more things, including parvo and distemper hepatitis. A few other inoculations can be required for cats. As you guys know, parvo is a real problem in sheltering. So we'd like to nip that in the bud if possible.
Interrupt you real quick on that one. Where's the rabies vaccine?
Rabies is required by state.
Oh, okay.
We've increased the number of dogs and cats to 8 that you can keep without first obtaining an additional permit. The idea being if you have a litter because you're fostering or something, we don't want to penalize you for this scenario. There have been some changes to the care requirements for tethering at the time to make it less cruel the way that it's practiced. And then the last thing that I would, the ultimate thing is the standard for dangerous dog is now preponderance of the evidence. That's the standard civil burden of proof. And finally, we have changed, amended the ordinance to say that animal services is now empowered to require a home inspection before adoption to make sure that the conditions that the dog or cat will be in are sufficiently humane. Those are kind of the big ones. Everything else in my view is, animal welfare services or animal services instead of animal pet or whatever, things like that.
Committee questions?
Oh, I actually reviewed it and have already did my homework, so I'm good with what you have here.
Okay, so we'll open it up to the public for comments. Anybody wish to speak? Please, when you speak, give your name, address before you.
Because 500 Blue Mountain Road, I would hope and propose that maybe we do away with chaining completely. There's not a lot of reason to go do a home check if you don't have a fenced yard, because I don't know what you're really checking for. I mean, overall, the animals that are chained up in this town are kept very inhumanely and do not receive socialization, exercise. I brought some information that Juliana's
I have photos with,
handing out. Yeah,
if you can respect that, Councilor Arnold would rather not see them if you guys want to pass. There's more here too.
those photos are pretty indicative of what we see all the time in Roswell. And there's a lot of information about how chaining is inhumane. And there's a movement across the country to get dogs off the chains and require fenced yards. And that way you can go to looking to see if they have a secure fenced yard. It's a lot easier than checking the length of the chain, the kind of collar, if it has a swivel, if it doesn't. And it's just overall, it's inhumane. I think we need to get away from it, move away from it, and maybe take a lead role in our state, in this area, makes some big changes.
I remember when you added that, there was a reason we didn't ban it permanently. Do you remember what that was?
Yes, generally speaking, it's not immediately clear to me that the city has the authority to require anybody to keep. So the use legal words, dogs and cats are chattel property. And so we would be putting a condition on their home in order to maintain a piece of chattel property if they already own. And I'm not entirely clear that we can enforce a fencing argument to people who own dogs. Now, moving forward, you can say anybody who adopts dogs in the city will have that fencing, but what you do. But by eliminating chain and saying you have to have a fence, I just can't confidently say that we're on a good legal footing to require homeowners to do that.
So you can find out though?
Well, there might not be a good answer, and if that's the case, I typically advise against those sort of things, is that they leave litigation often.
Please define chattel.
So yeah, chattel is, history lesson. Chattel is the old English word for the Middle English word for cattle, and it was the measure of your property wealth. And so in the law, your personal effects are your chattel property.
So that's
So
state
your
law.
TV, your wallet, your dog, these are all personal property. And so to tie how your house has to be constructed to the type of personal property you own is a hard thing after you already own property.
Is that a state law?
Well, it's a government, it becomes like a government question.
So the fencing agreement, that's just for dogs to adopt out.
Right, yeah, so the fencing rule comes in, because you have to, if you're going to engage in a future transaction, adopt a dog.
That could just be for the
The
city.
condition of the sale is the fencing.
Are we going to run into the problem you're talking about with what you've written in the ordinance as it is now here?
The leashing rules are firm, please.
The wording for the tethering section.
What name and address?
In the wording, could there be something added where if an animal control officer comes to a home and there's a dog that's in that situation, but they make the decision that they don't think, yeah, kind of like along the animal cruelty. Not every tethered dog is necessarily, but if you see a dog like that, can they have the power to make a decision that this is not good for the dog?
Yeah, so if they have probable cause to believe that the animal is being harmed outside of outside of what the law allows, they can go into the person's yard and assist the animal. That's that common.
What's the definition of harm? That's kind of where the gray area is, like we're allowing some persons to tie a dog and they look half starving and they don't have any grass and.
So typically you're going to look for imminent danger. If not, that it's preferable that they go to the court, describe the condition.
And how is that working?
I mean,
Well, there's one in here, for example, Sammy, you took the picture. There's two dogs. There's no water, nothing. They're living in a little hole next to a building. Whatever happened with those dogs?
I went over yesterday. They were supposed to remedy that situation within 24 hours is what I was told. But the situation had not changed. They were still without shelter. But even if they, like Chantel generously said that she has a doghouse they could use, but the problem is, like in that situation, those dogs can't get off the chains. They can't go find shade. And even if they have a doghouse, there's no shade at all. And so
It's another-
that doghouse is just a doghouse. It's just a bad situation. And that's, I'm afraid enforcement is something that doesn't happen often, doesn't happen well.
so I guess what I'll put is that the law is pretty much there for a case like that. The issue becomes resources, not legislation.
Have you seen any communities that are doing this though? How are they getting away with outlawing cats and meat?
Oh, we can outlaw chains. I'm not sure. It's better not, my lawyer's view is it's better not to write a law that you can't enforce. Or write a law up to the point. that you can enforce it.
But why can't we enforce it? I'm sorry, I'm not going to be argumentative. I just-
No. We got how many officers of animal welfare and how many police officers?
But they're having to go. Jamie,
Because if this dog's chained and he has shelter, but this is a horrific situation to be in, and with that, could they do anything? I'm holding, sorry,
So you look at the ordinance, so if we take the ordinance, we can go to the tethering rules. Sorry, if you want. So so is that chain more than a quarter inch thick? Yes or no? Do they have weights attached? Yes or no? What type of collar is it? Does it look like it's at least 12 feet, right? Do they have sufficient, like you just go through the list of things and then decide on recording.
Because this was more than a quarter inch.
There's that dog that looks like the doodle that's all lighted up. That's a case that's been going on for at least 3 years. And I've had animal control out there on numerous occasions, and that's been deemed A-okay.
So if we pass this though,
Or like, I don't know
Oh.
that, it's always a fact specific inquiry, so.
yes, name and address, please.
Yes, well, it used to be my address, and I used to live at 14 East 23rd Street, space 22.
So what's your name and address right now?
My name is Josie Olave, and my address now is 200 East 22nd Street, space 51. But I recently moved to the new address, but there, I used to live close by. There's, I'm not too sure what space it is at the airport. And there is a big dog that is there. He's tied up. He lives, he never has water. He lives around his species and everything. And the guy that lives there, he has, several of the neighbors have told the manager about it. The manager has not done nothing about it. And I don't know who to talk to about it, because I don't want to call the animal control to come and pick it up, because, I mean, that dog deserves to live and everything, but it needs to be removed from our home. Because that dog is a dog, he doesn't take care of his things and stuff, and that dog is tied up. As a matter of fact, it's tied up and it's a big dog. I don't know what kind of dog it would be, a rat or a rat.
I know you don't want to call them. I would recommend you call animal control and they go inspect it, or Abby might be able to go inspect it. Do you have any more comments?
I'm gonna have to actually say that I do agree with Abby. I am not in favor of tethering. And it's a hard balance between understanding application of law and rights of others. I think our first issue is the fact that we are defining a living, breathing creature as chattel. But I would agree with Abby, and I think that that is actually something that we should have conversations on and aspire to apply. But there are several issues, because you have homes that have no fences, and to actually require them to get a fence to take care of their dog. Well,
I don't think we're requiring the general public to have a fence, only the ones that are adopted out of animal control.
but if you ask them to actually, not tether, then that would be their option. I don't agree with the tethering. I don't agree with any of that. Most people, as I understand it, use dogs as alarm systems, and that's why they're tethered and they're outside. I do want to advise people that Simply Safe is cheaper than a dog. So, I'll just say it right now. I'm going to be advocating and supporting Abby on trying to figure out a solution for us moving into this, because we have a big hurdle, because people have dogs and they're tethered and they have no fence. So, at least
I think that was the reason for not completely banning the chaining.
was the lack of the requirement of that then they would have to fence them.
But did you get the quarter inch from another?
I think that looks, that's, she said,
You cut that to an 1/8 inch? Because you can get an 1/8 inch chain that weighs less. I don't know. Quarter inch is still a heavy chain.
Well, it's still isolated yard, not being cared for properly. This is going to be controversial, but most of these dogs that I see, the people shouldn't even have a dog.
No, I agree. No, I agree. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Leah Hilton. I live at 519 South Chamsal. Now, I don't remember who said it, you or he said it, but didn't someone say moving towards the new, like the new norm? Like this is something that a lot of cities or other states are actually putting in. But we are concerned about whether or not it's illegal or within the law, or whether or not we can enforce it. Why are we looking at the other cities and that are doing this?
Yeah, he looks at other cities to get the verbiage. What if, can you find out if we ban tethering 100%?
We could ban it 100%, that would be lawful. I can see some pushback from
Well,
members of the community.
But like you said, these people shouldn't even have pets.
Well, I guess, when you say ban tethering, for do you mean? So I have a 6-month-old dog, I can't keep him on the leash on my chair while I'm sitting outside with him.
I think that's different.
Well, so but you see what?
My dog.
Well, I have to be able to practice, so what do you actually mean?
Well, I did find some information where people did define that more literally. And they said, if they're supervised leash with their person right there, they did make specifications in some of their ordinances that do talk about that. So I'm sure we could do the same.
You've got language you can send out there.
Yes, Megan.
Megan is 1105 Fulkerson Road. I am in no way for changing either my animals on team. I do want to say if we're gonna go this route, you've got to advertise. I mean, the people who are chaining the dogs are here. And they're not gonna, like you said, you're gonna get a lot of people who are not gonna be happy about that. You're gonna let their dogs go, you're gonna have increased bites, you're gonna have increased intakes. So you gotta advertise way before you pass something like that. Give people who are wanting to take it a chance to correct it.
I see that with the increased fines too, start increasing the fines for breeding. I think that was in the.
You gotta cite for it,
Well, I think
I mean, we've always done that.
I think there would be a grace period probably, like I saw where people were saying they gave everybody like 160 days to comply.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And you had something?
I have a question.
Name and address, please.
Jackie McFarland, 001 Meadowlark Lane. When officers, animal control, animal services go out on the calls and they see animals like the pictures we saw. The one that is so emaciated that it's just, should that animal control officer call the police and have the police intervene? Because police know the information to ask. They know to document this and that, things that an animal control officer might not know.
Manage that one.
But if we had city police involved and had their back so we could go to court and win these cases. Well, the police know how to do that, where just me out the street doesn't have that training.
The animal control officers are all trained in court. Our attorneys that work with our legal department. So our attorney will go with them to court, so to make sure all the
I'm not
paperwork's.
talking about going to court, excuse me. I'm
You
sorry.
said together the information.
Exactly, at the
At
scene.
the scene, that's right. And that's what the attorneys do. They train these officers on how to collect the information, how to do investigation. And I'm just telling you.
See how it's working.
That's right.
Do you have any recommendations?
So for me, this is all a catch-22. In order for us to get where we probably need to be in a community that is respectful of animals, there's actually a lot of downfalls that you're going to go through. So you're spot on, and one action leads to about 6 other reactions, and we have to deal with those. However, I think if we actually take into account what our end goal is, start creating what that looks like, and do what we have to do. As I think about some of the actions that come from something like this, it kind of makes me sick to my stomach. But at the same time, we have a mindset in this town that actually needs to be altered. On that note, I would ask, I think there's several steps that the city could look at doing a little differently. I do want to say that our city admin, animal services, our officers, I have no doubt that they are just as passionate about this work as all of you are. However, I would like to support passing this and then also seriously encourage our staff to enforce it full stop.
The way it's written or with changes to completely ban?
No, once we pass it, whatever comes of it. My point is you've made some serious changes in here from 2 years ago. The only thing is I agree with city attorney that writing a law that is not enforced is actually a waste of time. The point in actually having laws is to have them enforced. However, I do recognize that resources are always limited. I want to say to our city staff that it will, of course, it's interesting where I was exposed to law, there was always allocated funding and compliance that was seriously considered when you pass a law everywhere. So that is a lot different here in New Mexico, but I recognize that our police officers, code enforcement, animal services all need additional assistance, but we also have another problem. We have a court system that's actually not actually punishing. And for me to actually learn from something like this, you actually have to have your hand slapped. And I don't know that that's actually truly happening. So there are several measures, there are several areas, but I think that Councilwoman Halverson, Madam Chair, has actually done a great job over the 2 years of trying to address a lot of these issues, get stricter, and we have to do all the steps, all of it, and hit it hard and hit, but I'm committed to helping make sure that we try to do that and provide any support and services to our city admin. Mr. Matthews here is at this nonstop, so anything I can do.
I would like to point out on that note that it's not only not being enforced, their citations aren't being written. So the judge doesn't have anything to prosecute if he's not having the cases brought in.
Okay.
I would like to put you on the spot. You've done this for years. What's your recommendation? What do you think?
I have no problem putting it in there and because it's ordinance and if you find that it doesn't work or whatever, you can always pull it, you can amend the ordinance.
If you can give me wording that basically covers what you want to do, and we'll compare it to this, and he can check the legality of everything for New Mexico law, because other states have other laws. So we have to go with what New Mexico law
I will
states.
say one more thing too. I mean, kind of the way I picture it isn't like if this were to happen, I don't see like the officers going up and down the alleys looking for people that have their dogs changed. But if somebody does call in and complain, it gives them a lot of power to get that dog away from them if there is no.
Well, the emaciated one, that's an open shut thing right there.
We have already taken care of that one.
And I would definitely say that if something like this passes, you would definitely have to have that grace period time built into it, that the education part goes out through our public information department to educate the public that within 90 days or 120, whatever it is, the committee chooses, and then after that date, it starts being enforced.
Because as Megan said, once we up the fine, like advertising or selling without a permit, we're going from $25 to $300, then $400, and then $500. So I do expect an uptick in abandoned dogs because people are going to be like, oh, I can't take, but at some point, I'm hoping it'll just slow down. People will realize they need to get their dogs fixed. Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple questions for Perry, so I want to make, but it goes along with what you're saying. One of my questions, it has to do with the sections 457 and 458, the breeding prohibited without a permit and sale prohibited without a permit. The red line version, I think it starts on page 30 of the agenda. Based on our knowledge, no breeding permits have been issued. Not. Also, based on our knowledge, no citations have been issued for not having a breeding permit, like not one. And based on my knowledge, there's really no administrative process in place for what you're all saying. I totally understand what you're saying. There's no system in place to do the things we'd like to do for these improvements, but
I'm going to interrupt you with a question on that. Honestly, this is a nice one. How do you propose we actually, because when I think of a breeding permit, no one has to tell you. I mean, the only way I knew people were breeding is they're selling them out at the parking lot in Walmart, and that's like 2 people.
they're all on Facebook.
Yeah, so, I mean, overall, you can have some puppies in your house and no one ever will know.
There's also like a transition period, like the tethering. I feel if officers come across a situation, they can, for the first year or two, there could be they could have handouts where they, this is not allowed, you have to have a permit. So
A year or two, I would do 160 days or something.
And I agree with that because education to me is key on this tethering. There's no one who measures they just go out, get whatever chain they can find, get their dog locked up because it barely have the resources to do that. So, I mean, that's the hard part is you write it, that I guarantee you very few follow or read it or even educated on it.
So I work in water rights and we do complaints and we're under the same boat. Everybody's breaking the law and we haven't, but if you have that goal in mind and you want to reach a higher standard, you just deal with one person at a time. And honestly, they spread the word.
Exactly.
Oh, no, neighbor's dog is gone because they were doing this and they took, it starts to improve over time. If we have good people who are enforcing these good laws. I agree with not allowing tethering. It's a little high standard, but don't we want high standards? Don't we want to be like, when we had the Alien Festival, people come here to visit our town. I don't want them leaving saying, oh, that was a bad, I saw this on the side of, I don't want them seeing all these dogs running the roads and dogs getting euthanized. And we hate to post that kind of stuff on social media because we don't want to make our town look bad, but we're trying to inform this is what's going on because we do want higher standards. So there can be a process of implementing things as steps, creating new methods and giving new tools to the officers and staff so that they could just start one by every single one makes a difference, in my opinion.
Well, for things like this too, like this woman was saying over here where she's worried to call animal control. Those people need to call it in, like you're saying, you can hide puppies, that's easy. But a good, PR, you guys do some of that on the Facebook. I see some good things coming out. We try to share that on our group and stuff. But the more that people see you guys wanting to help or worse and things like that too, this lady's gonna call. She's gonna be like, well, you guys are gonna help this dog. It's not gonna just get killed or something. So.
Mr. Matthews had some.
And I just want to be real clear, as we sit today, currently, we do not have the staff to monitor Facebook. And I know that's been a big issue in the past about Facebook is just flooded with people and their pets and trying to sell dogs or rehome fees or we all know what it is. They're selling dogs. I do not have the staff, or we do not have the staff to set somebody just searching Facebook and then responding to every one of those calls because there's literally hundreds of them a day.
I think Chantel's tired of me texting her Facebook, go get this person.
So we'll get a volunteer to do that.
So and that's actually a fine point because I think that's the problem. This isn't just a city, this is a community issue and it's something that we need to at our last meeting regarding a voucher program. It is my mindset that sometimes, the reason we have the problem is because people either don't know any better or they haven't been, they're not aware because they haven't had their hands slapped. I am a huge advocate of either a blitz or something actually just hitting hard and letting them know this is not tolerated. We as a community, as a council, we have to say, no, this is not acceptable. And when you start actually letting them know there is punishment, there is repercussions for your actions and it spreads, then that's when people learn not to do something. They learn that to actually look it up. I think that we've just been a little too lax and just for years. We have people who don't actually respect their animals, and granted they are chattel, but that's a generational thought that we actually have to start. We have to start teaching the next generation better, and that there are repercussions.
And like I was telling you, Megan, once we start citing people for breeding and having puppies and not vaccinating, word's going to get around.
Yep.
And then we're going to probably see an influx of dogs being abandoned.
That's
initially. But eventually, I think that will taper off and we'll start seeing fewer and fewer because people realize they're going to get in trouble if they don't stop vaccinating.
So you said that, we don't have the resources for someone to actually sit on Facebook and monitor Facebook. Now, what happens if someone turns in something they saw on Facebook? Does anyone ever do that? Or is
Yeah,
there
I've done it too, but the problem is they don't have the resources to track down, is this person in the county? And they're breeding in the county, we can't control that.
Well, and then if somebody's selling them on Facebook, then they want you to contact them on Facebook. So you send them a message, and then if the minute they find out, or if they find out you're with animal control or whatever, then it's crickets. You don't hear from them no more. So it's more of an undercover trying to find out where they're at, where they're located at, and it's more of a detective.
Regarding resources, one comment I'd like to make that I'd like to see the city make a change is there's no way for people to donate to our shelter. We have so many people. So Florida has a big following. We have lots of people all over the country. In Florida, someone wants to donate money. My friend's aunt sent a $500 check in October. It sat somewhere for 6 months and eventually got sent back. Because we were told there's no account.
There is an account. There's donation accounts.
Ramon told us he worked on it for 3 months and he was unable to cash it.
Cities always had to donate.
Because I've even posted when we were doing, what were we doing? We were doing something. And I said,
Sorry, but that's not.
I don't know what told you that because that is not true.
It's on the vector program. Well, the application where you donate.
Yeah, because we're doing this the low cost spay and neuter. We're hoping that'll help a lot too. But there's an address and everything where to send the checks to for
Do you
that.
know what happened with that shelter? No, because there was a $500 check just sitting there and then it got.
Nothing about that. I guess Ramon was on that. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, because to be honest, once that grant runs out, and I don't know how many applications you've received already, but I don't expect it to last too long. But if people can donate, we can continue the program. We're going to apply for the grants again, but
We're very happy about that too. We saw that, we shared it. I think that's a really good thing that they move forward with.
Chantel, you have any input on this?
For the vouchers, so far I have 5 approved.
How about on the tethering and stuff? You see it every day. So.
My only concern is if they have an aggressive dog, no fence, and it's chained up, and then if, like Megan said, if they
Just let it go.
Yeah, then we have an incident.
Yes, ma'am.
Amy Lecter, 503 North Missouri. One thing that chaining has been proved to do, though, is make dogs aggressive. It makes them extremely aggressive. So, feeding into that mentality here, we're feeding into everything else, the breeding, abuse, neglect, all of it. It will cause dogs to be very aggressive. And that's not a lie.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
It's a little bit going off to a different topic regarding the cat program. I know that's not really the main points of this ordinance change, although I would like to see something added to the ordinance. My personal opinion, the way it's written right now, the animal shelter has the ability to work a TNVR program. It doesn't say anything about citizens being able to. So I feel right now that the program, to me, it's been a success. They're not killing a lot of cats right now at the shelter. I think it's a success in my opinion at this time, but I feel that because of the lack of resources at the shelter, a lot of people are trapping their own cats, bringing them in, volunteers are helping, call is helping. So there's a lot of volunteers and people in the public trapping the cats, release, the staff at RAC cannot do all of that actual work. And I don't know if this applies here, but I've seen in other cities, if there's nothing in the ordinance that allows everyone to help with TNVR, some people were like ticketed for doing, like what if a neighbor complains about cats and there's nothing in the ordinance saying that, hey, she's allowed to catch and neuter and release the cats. I would like to see it broadened a little bit and then.
Well, at this point, until we see the actual report of how the TNVR programs worked, we're supposed to receive that in September. I can't add anything to the order.
Okay, and that was my second part of that though, is I was curious to know how the city is evaluating if it's working or not, because I feel like there's different ways to define success of the program, because we of course care about how many cats are being euthanized and now like hardly any are being euthanized. So to us, it's working. To you, you may be concerned about, and I think the real data is how many, we have too many overpopulation of cats and we want it to be reduced over time. But we can't really prove that, especially in 1 year with, the shelters fixing 8 cats a week. That's not enough to really, it's not the full extent of what the program can do. So I hate to see the city getting some kind of data, oh, there's still too many cats out there, it's not working. It kind of is working, give it a chance, so.
Well, I think Shauna Emmert is going to work, she was going to work with you, right, to get the data together?
Yes.
Yeah, she's a good one too, because she's out there all the time with the cats and she can count them. I just want to see the population decrease.
Yeah, and I just we're collecting that data, it's like, we don't really.
If you see the population decreasing and not increasing, then it's obviously it's working, but.
Are you planning to have that data before the next public safety meeting in September, or do you think?
The safety meeting.
So we won't be able to.
Till October, yeah. So on this ordinance, did anyone else other than the tethering have any other? Anybody else and any more input? Okay, then I guess that's one, if you can see what you can do, and you're gonna get verbiage, Abby?
Yes.
And we'll find out if it's legal and stuff, and if so, we'll see what we can do to. But we won't put a grace period in the ordinance. It's gonna be.
We can if he's left.
Well, I don't think it needs to be in the ordinance. Do you?
I would lean on our attorney to, if it needs to state in there that 120 days after the adoption of this ordinance.
If it's enforceable?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so by default, 5 days after public hearing.
That are the action.
So this is just for adopted through our facility, it's not for.
No, the fencing is for adopted surveyors facility. The tethering is just any dog.
Oh,
Well, so yeah, we're still 90 days out anyway.
Mhm.
To be able to pass this.
Yeah. Okay. All right then, if there's no more questions, we'll work on that. And the next public safety, hopefully we'll have the final version. And then we can vote on it and take it to the city council in October. Okay, thank you everyone for your input. I appreciate that. So the non-action item, Arnold, did you have?
Fire marshal.
No?
I did, yes, I asked him to kind of come in and talk about, well, for several reasons. His office is extremely busy. They handle a lot. And I think I wanted us to be educated on what they're actually working on, kind of what their role is, and so that we can focus on helping them expand in should he see it necessary. I do believe that with the things we have progressing in our community, his demand is going to get even more extensive over the next couple of years. So I just wanted us to be educated. And so you're not going to you don't have like a book to present.
I have a PowerPoint that I'd like to present.
That was a you missed it.
I'm going to suggest, I was kind of hoping that Councilor Chapel would be present. If it's possible, maybe we could we could put it off to the next bill.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's
and find it.
absolutely.
We'll add him to the next month's agenda. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, then we go to monthly emergency management.
I don't really have anything to add other than what was in my report. Business as usual, working on updating the 2 plans that were approved. We have a tabletop and a workshop with the Secretary of State tomorrow on election security. Working with, we have an exercise with the college coming up where they had updated their emergency operations plan, and they're kind of exercising some of the training they've done with their staff. And then working with on the Reno Air Race stuff that Tim Spencer will be here next week. Lots of meetings set up for him to talk to first responders. So just business as usual, but open if you have any questions.
All right, Roswell Animal Services, do you want to introduce? Aiden?
Yeah, I'll let Chantel go. She introduced the kennel manager.
Maybe I should tell him that.
And
I'm Shaylin. I'm the new kennel manager.
you guys are doing a good job so far. So you want to give your report?
So we're still closed to the public. We did get another tested positive for December. We heard from Rescue today saying they tested positive. We did send 2 more yesterday. Possible December, we're waiting for those results. We take over 3 days for that. And then we still are accepting cats by appointment. Our lobby is closed to the front just so we don't get that many intakes. We're managing our intakes and don't accept this so we don't get anything else.
And I know you asked Sammy and I asked her too, so we're going to start keeping track of all the distemper cases that came through. One of the vets asked us to do that so we can make sure there's not an outbreak, but that we can manage it and see where it's coming from. So.
Yeah. And then working on things, we're working on getting vaccines for the public. We did have a meeting with the Petco manager, and he's looking into us being able to give vaccines at their facility. So hopefully that can happen so we can have an adoption event when we do open back up and do vaccines for the public.
So those of you who aren't aware, we got a Petco Love grant to give the distemper and the feline of all the dogs and cats their shots. We don't have a vet to administer it, so she's trying to work with Petco to administer those.
And I hope that this vouchers, they're in progress right now. As I stated earlier, we have 5 that got approved. I know there's been a little confusion in city limits only right now. So anybody that lives out in the county, I do have to deny them. And we're just pretty much waiting to open back up till we get the results and see if we have to quarantine longer. But other than that.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I do want to let people know that we are kind of working on assisting the dogs that actually are in the cages for a long time. We met.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Yes, we met 2 weeks ago with Job Corps group, and we're working on animal enrichment opportunities to, they have students who are required to meet volunteer hours. They'll be volunteering with animal services Tuesdays and Thursdays, and there'll be about 6 of them, and each of them will try to walk 4 dogs in that time period to get them out. And so we're very excited about that. We have our next meeting tomorrow, and our goal is to at least have it in motion by the end of next week. So I think that is actually going to be very helpful. Very grateful for Job Corps, and there's other entities that we can start looking at as well. Youth Challenge, some of the others, but I did want to put that out there. Very exciting.
Sorry.
No. I'm just excited because the dogs should actually have some interaction with humans.
Enrichment.
Yep, enrichment. So anyway, very exciting stuff.
Chantel, thank you for adding your additional report on the back. I would like to see it broken down a little bit further. If you'll look in the packet under the police department and their detectives, they break it down per officer or per detective number of cases that they're working at the time. Those cases are cases that have been filed in the courts. I would like to see that with your officers so that we know what officers, how many cases they actually have, because at some point in time, you may get to the point to where, like detectives, you're having to move something that if you're going to have to file on somebody, you may have to push it down to another officer who doesn't have as many cases filed, because once you get, like a detective, once they get so many cases, it gets to be too much, so they kind of spread it out. So I would like to see that added to the report.
Do you have a copy of that?
I'll give you it's in this agenda packet here.
So just so you're aware, basically, she's going to give us a monthly report now that shows us how many citations are issued, how many prosecutions, and how many convictions. That way, if there's a problem, we can narrow down where the problem is and why there's such a problem with people not taking care of their animals in this town. Okay, was that everything, Shansha?
Yeah.
Okay. Community development.
Well, in code enforcement, I got the guys running calls. And just kind of working on the weed problem right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have them working mostly on weeds because right now you cut them down, they're not gonna go anymore. But
Okay.
that's what we've got going on over there right now.
Question. Yes, ma'am.
So in your professional opinion, could you use more men or, I'm sorry, people?
I guess we could use one more.
Okay, because I mean, there's a lot of laws out there, so I mean,
Yes.
you guys have one for each area. And if I'm gonna ask you to enforce it, I think you need the resources like that to do so.
Yes, ma'am.
So keep that in mind. I need to be educated on the holes, how we go about fixing them, and then figuring out funding. That's the hard part. But
Okay.
if we don't talk about it, we don't figure it out. So keep me posted on your thoughts on that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, if you'll, Councilor Arnold, you'll notice on their monthly report, they sent out 771 notices this month, or the prior month. They filed 17 cases in court of that, so
Okay,
they stay pretty busy.
they do. So they
He's on
definitely-
speed dial.
Yes. So no, absolutely. In no way do I think Toby and his are not, I just want to make sure you have everything, because that is the other side of compliance.
Yes.
So, yes, I think we could expand, in my personal opinion. So, thank you.
All right, everything?
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Okay, Chief Bateman.
This month, or the last couple months, we've been focusing on a lot of traffic stuff. We have actually expanded our traffic unit by one more person. Just needed to pay Paul. Unfortunately, we're down about 15 officers right now. But I think in the last 6 months, we've had numerous fatalities involving pedestrians. So one recently, a lot of the pedestrians aren't following the crosswalks. On the other end, you've got some people just not maintaining the correct speed. One on Main Street was intoxicated. We ended up stopping him on North Main after he struck and killed the pedestrian. So we'll hopefully face the consequences with the courts. So expanding that, we've had issues, of course, the Brenham Stadium. I emailed the complainant that they've been having issues for about the last 6 months. She's very happy with what's going on over there. We actually pushed back the time to leave that parking lot from 11 to 9. One thing I got notified late last week I need to follow up on is we put the signs up 9 o'clock, but one sign still left up says 11, which isn't a big deal because the lower time will take effect. So it doesn't matter on that, but they're very happy with that. But we're seeing these same people that are doing the donuts and stuff, same people over and over. I don't know how they're affording new tires, exhaust, and I don't know.
You impound the vehicles when they do that?
We tow if it's reckless, in a reckless manner. Speed alone isn't reckless driving. So there has to be something else to it. Whether doing donuts, erratic driving, stuff like that.
A race.
We are towing the vehicles and giving them arrest citations.
So if they're racing, is that considered?
Racing on highways, it just depends if they're just speeding. So there is a racing on highway statute or exhibition of speed, which goes in the same thing. If they pull out in front of you, that's considered under the same statute. We have arrested on it before, I think under the ordinance, unless state law changed. Of course, it's been years since I was like in patrol. It used to be a citation. It wasn't arrest on racing, but it doesn't take a lot to go into reckless once you start weaving in now. But yeah, we have had racing on highways under the ordinance, and we have arrested.
For these 5 cadets, I know they take time to be on their own. Are you still down 15 with them or?
Yeah, that's with them. So they're in the academy right now. So and we have 2 on administrative leave right now. So one is out, Sergeant Cavan's still out. He'll return to light duty in late August. So he'll come back. That should be, hopefully, we'll start in the next week or 2 setting up the real-time crime center. He'll do some light duty stuff in that.
The National Night Out went really well too.
Yeah, that was National Night Out.
National Night Out.
Yes.
Yeah.
But pretty much that's all right now. Right now, traffic is reckless drivers and speeders and running stop signs. I actually drove out to West Second at Sycamore, and it was the one by Dairy Queen, Washington, and timed the stoplights in between yellow, and it's about 3 seconds to take. So they may have it at 3 seconds. I'm gonna next meeting we have for the traffic, James McCormick, and then I'm gonna see if they can't adjust.
Because he talked about
So
that.
quick, yeah, because I caught myself today. It turned yellow. That's what got me to go out and time them. It turned red from yellow or yellow to red like that. And so I timed them. Both intersections were about the same, approximately 3 seconds. I think that's too quick. It's not giving, people are speeding up. And we also talked before, a lot of issues running red lights is the timing between red light going north-south to green light going. I think the city, one thing we found out is it's too quick.
It's like instant. Yeah.
Other cities, I think that'll help cut down with crashes, and it's cost effective. It's basically nothing is once the light turns red, this one won't turn green for maybe 2-3 seconds. Right now it's pretty quick and you're getting some collisions, but that's something I'll meet with James McCormick. I think we have another meeting coming up pretty quick.
This is next Thursday, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. That's all I got. I stand for any questions.
Don't go away because I will have you answer some questions here in a little bit.
Do what?
Don't go away. I'm going to have you answer some questions for this gentleman in a minute.
Okay, if we could do it, I gotta go pick up my.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
James Lepon, 213 East 23rd Street. There's been, for the last 15 years that I've lived on that street, there's been just way too much speed racers and even a speed incident that happened about a month ago where a woman took, from what she told officers, half of a bottle of Zantac, went down 23rd Street about 65 miles an hour and wrecked into 4 vehicles. Officers did find a syringe in the vehicle. And this guy, my neighbor, lives right in front of where that accident took place. We are done fed up of reporting this stuff in and not seeing an effect as a result taken in this situation. And like I was sharing with city councilor, that a month before this, I had run into an object where at Hobby Lobby I bought. And I was like, if I could post this even into my yard and get several more, I said I would even definitely do that to help bring, if possible, bring the attention to these speed racers down 23rd, because even 2 years ago, they almost killed 2 high school students right before Christmas coming out of Goddard. And so that's what made me step up and even try to take out
I wanted you, because I don't know if it's legal for him to put that in, if it's his property, but
That's something that's, Louis, would be able, and the engineers would be able to answer. So some of the stuff, we started a group, it's, what's the name of the traffic safety? We have a specific name for it, but anyway, coming up with ideas to, lessen crashes in certain areas, because that's a lot of the stuff. When we target a certain area for enforcement, we look at the crash data. So high crash areas, we're going to target more. West Second Street and Sunset recently have been two.
this Thursday, by the way, safe streets for all.
Safe streets for all. So some of the stuff we're still discussing, maybe putting the speed bumps in certain areas on less traveled streets. Signage is a huge thing. Something like that. I couldn't answer your question if it's legal. That'd be up to the engineers.
And I did talk to James McCormick even right before the incident and right after the incident.
Yeah, so we can look at, and we'll bring that up in the meeting. I think Councilor Howerson's on that committee too. Look at that specific area on East 23rd to see if it would fit to have those. Of course, you wouldn't want to have one on Sunset or something, because you'd be getting a lot of complaints on my tires based on the speed limit. Do you know what the speed limit is? At 30 miles an hour over there? Or 30. Okay, it's something we can look at. Like I said, we have 4 traffic officers for the entire city, 2 working 2 different shifts, and you get one on days off. All of a sudden, you got 1 traffic officer working the whole city, and they respond to all major crashes, at least with injuries. So that ties them up, and we usually have anywhere from 4 to 5 officers working the city. So we try to, like I said, we try to target crash specific areas, but we can try to put that on a patrol list. We've had some issues in certain areas where I can't remember if it's Aspen Street. They were having an issue with one guy doing donuts in front of their house and speeding up, and we targeted that area for a little bit, and the guy moved on. I think it was more of a harassment on the neighbors he was doing, but we kind of targeted that area, and now we're getting them in the same guy in other areas of the city. So he's just kind of moved on, but yeah, we'll look at that. We have that meeting Thursday, and we'll get with James McCormick and see if that's something that might work. And like I said, he'd be able to answer that light thing a lot better than me.
Just real quickly, if I may, on a different subject, there's some condemned apartments, even right behind this guy's apartment, that we've been having more activity of squatters going in. And ever since 2015, when I got tired of seeing overdoses almost every week in apartment A, and even some of the officers recently that I've called out there, they said, you know what, we wish the city would just hurry up and take these things down. One officer said, I remember 3 incidences where ODs happened right in front of him. And he said it just gets sickening. And so ever since 2015, I have been taking it upon myself, went to the help of Ala Ansa, got my Sharps card, and I will go out picking up all these syringes with these gloves and the gripplers that Ala Ansa provided me, put them into the red containers that they also provide me. And it's getting sickening that this same individual gets contacted by code enforcement and so forth, and we still don't see any action on his part of complying with what the city's trying to go after.
Do you have any update on that, Toby?
Yeah, that's Mr. Chidas. We've had a lot of problems with this gentleman. He has a bunch of properties around town. He is what you call, I'm not gonna say, one of those. I won't say it anyways.
Can you guys tell me what cross streets we're talking about? I mean, I understand it's 23rd, but
It's
what area? are you talking
Grandin.
I'll show you.
Grandin 23rd. Those apartments, it's actually what,
Are there still
23
people living in some of them?
There's people squatted in them. The gentleman did secure the property. They've gone and they've torn them down, and they've even broke through a wall, and so they could get into the property from the back. Mr. Chidas, we've had him in court. He did jail time, like a lot of time for those apartments. And then when he got out of jail, one of his conditions was to keep up with it, and he hasn't. And I did call him maybe about 3 weeks ago because he's got like weeds like this tall in the front. I asked him to cut them down. I asked him to secure the property, and he has not. So we filed another complaint on him in municipal court, and we're waiting on the file for that. But he is one of our habitual offenders.
I think just keep calling when you see squatters in there. Keep calling the PD non-emergency line, and we'll send people. We respond to those calls every day. And I know code enforcement sites for that kind of stuff, and we actually arrest. If it's somebody we'll run into the first time, we usually give them a criminal trespass warning.
He's right.
They'll usually be back, then we'll arrest, and after that, it's up to the courts. And I mean, Toby's shop can sit there and cite somebody over and over and over. The courts don't do anything. Sometimes they'll levy a small fine, and it's not, the guy will pay the fine and just wait for the next time. So it's a never ending story for us on the courts, and I'm not necessarily blaming the courts on these specifically, but keep calling us and we'll go over and handle the squatters.
So I did want to actually throw this in on the 23rd. One thing I'd recommend with Mr. Nahar is a traffic study to actually put in, because that's what we did with Alameda. That takes a minute to do. And so as far as your speeding on 23rd, I think a good way to start is traffic study.
We can talk to Mr. McCormick about that.
Yeah.
In our meeting.
That's what he did for Alameda.
Because it is a through street to Garden.
Right.
I think, yeah, it does go all the way to Garden.
Yeah.
Okay. You mean, yes, sir.
I'd just like to make a comment. I live on 205 East 23rd. I do appreciate you guys coming down, doing what you gotta do, but let's get real. I mean, you guys have got other things to do other than to worry about an apartment that a owner doesn't want to fix. I mean, it's really in bad shape, you know, and I guess I saw a guy there a few days ago cutting down the weeds. There's no way they can get that fixed, you know, for under $300,000. I mean, it's in bad shape. The sad thing about it, I've got 3 great-grandkids that live with me, and sometimes I don't want to even let them in the backyard until I go through it and see what else. I have found phones, I found syringes, I mean, I can't really let them go out there and play. But you guys are doing a superb job, and I appreciate it, but you guys need some help too. Steve's got to step up and start doing something. This guy has put up an address on there. It's from Albuquerque. Okay, that's where his son lives. So he's throwing the responsibility to somebody else that's out of town. You know, that's not helping you guys out at all.
What are our options?
Is that the one I asked about the other day, Cody, that I wanted to quote on?
Yes.
I asked last week, I think, for one of the guys to go get a quote on taking it down. It is bad. It's very bad. And
They're down instead of lean to the.
That's an option that I'm currently looking at. I have not received our demo money yet, so I, as of today, have $0 to do it. Hopefully that gets fixed. But it is a priority for me, that one.
Because this is, since I've been a counselor, we've discussed this because they finally put boards up at least.
Yeah.
So they're tearing them
Their
down.
walls are broken into, there's open doors. It's a huge problem.
They've stolen all the electrical wiring out of, I mean, you can look, because where I live, I just step on something and look over the fence and I can see that the wires are gone. There's holes between the walls outside, you know, walls inside. It's dangerous for him to run, do whatever.
There's been people asking to buy the property, and this gentleman doesn't want to sell. He's just, it's not just those properties. He had properties on the corner of Sycamore and Bland. Those were a problem also. He got those fixed. He had some down the street on Grand, just a little further down. You know how it curves like this?
Yeah.
He had a couple in there, the townhouses. This guy's got a lot of property, and he just, I've gone and personally talked to him and said, oh yeah, Mr. Franco, I'll take care of it right away. And he never does anything. But he did. He finally got caught. He, with the addresses that go to Albuquerque, are his sons. He had the properties in his 2 sons and his daughter's name. So we got information on one of his kids, one of the boys had a warrant because we had his name and he never showed up to court here, but the poor kid doesn't even know nothing about it because he lives over there. And the only reason we found out he lives over there is because one of the officers is good friends with them. And he told me, hey, do you know you got a warrant? What do you mean I got a warrant? Why? And we told him, he goes, oh, that's my dad. And this is what kind of person this man is. That's.
Well, if you can see what you can do, I mean, if you don't have the money, I guess that's was it budgeted? Does anyone know? It wasn't budgeted?
Demolition wasn't budgeted? Okay.
Great. Okay. The gentleman.
Thank you for everything you guys. Thank you guys are doing good.
Chief, we're making drives and we're filling spots pretty quick. That's been our number one priority for the last few months, so. But it is looking good. It's looked like, once we get them all filled, or the ones we're gonna be able to fill here pretty soon, probably gonna be about 4 short. One other thing that Terry and I are starting to look into is maybe getting we've got some grumbling about the lack of overtime because we're filling those spots good. But we might be able to make up a little of that difference, getting some of these guys to help Terry and then out of dispatch. So it's kind of pretty much what we're working on pretty hard and heavy here lately.
How's the new class going?
Going good so far.
Okie dokie. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Yeah. We had a busy month last month. We actually hosted our International Association of Arts Investigators, and it was a great conference, had a good turnout. We actually got myself and one of my deputies new certifications that is pretty good advancement and hard to obtain. So we're proud of those. We've got one more deputy that's Steve couldn't get his application in on time, but he's scheduled to get his taken sometime this week. So all 3 of us will have brand new certifications as a result of the trainings. And other than that, it's just business as usual. I would like to say, because Council Arnold had mentioned that, we're kind of concerned about having enough personnel. I was nervous with my 2 guys that they were looking for other jobs. And I think convinced them to stick around for a little while. The trainings are a big incentive, being able to get them these credentials and kind of revitalizes their desire to perform and to remain here and be successful. The flip side of that is now they're more qualified to go other places. It's still a concern, and I just kind of wanted to reiterate that, it took the certification that my one deputy just achieved. I got that early on in my career, and I've got an advanced one, but it took him a little years to become what you consider a certified fire and explosives investigator. So it's not something that we're doing overnight. We can't just pull somebody off the truck and say, now you're an investigator. It's years of training and education. They're having to learn the codes. They're having to learn the investigation processes and just develop as fire marshals. So I would appeal to the council that, we really need more people, and we got to train them up now in preparation for potential, movement.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know if you can answer this, but did we find out what happened with the hangar out at the base? That's still under investigation.
Still under investigation. We've got insurance companies that are involved, and they're going to bring in their other investigators. I'm going to join them for more investigation out there, and they're actually going to delayer the scene with heavy equipment, and that's kind of what halted our investigation is if we would have brought in our own heavy equipment, machinery and stuff, we could have potentially destroyed evidence that would have been of interest to the insurance company. So we have to kind of wait on them now, but still movement on that too.
Good job with the festival. I know you guys were busy there too. We don't have dispatch.
First thing I want to say is I apologize. Apparently I cannot navigate Agenda Quick at 2 a.m. I actually couldn't find my report. Allison was helping me try to find it before the meeting. So I said, all right, I'll just get it out of the packet. And it's not there. So my sincere apologies on that. But in our report, since we last spoke, our vacancies were at 7. The good news is they're still at 7, but the bad news is it's because we had 2 resign and hired 2. The 2 that we had resign both cited salary issues. That's not anything new to you. In actuality, we're down 9 because it takes so long to get them trained up. So for the rest of this year, we're going to be down about 9 people, which is just barely over 60% staffing. We're holding it together. The state is actually doing a salary study on telecommunicators by solicitation. So they're asking for feedback from centers. What I believe they're going to find is there's a large disparity among agencies. And I think they're trying to fix that. Our problem is that it's our neighbors that are paying more per hour.
Sure.
So we're battling that. Allison and I hosted a meeting with our staff on Monday to kind of steer them away from the hourly pay, kind of instill in them that what they do is so important and rewarding, and there are people literally not that are alive now because of them. So we're trying to build that, and yes, you do have to put groceries on the table, but what we do is so important, and if we dedicate to that and we make people aware, then maybe we can heighten that. So we got a bit of solidarity going Monday. We both felt really, really good about it. Our new employees are really excited to be there, and that's always refreshing. They'll be certified by the end of the month, and we're hoping to at least get them on the phones in the next 2 months, 60 days or so, and that will give a little relief. Chief Miller mentioned that we're in preliminary discussions about having firefighters come over. They used to do that before I came on board, and during the evacuation disaster, they really pulled us out of the fire because they just came over and started answering the phones. It was comical almost, but it was so helpful.
We didn't say they were good help. We just
At this point, help us. But the advantage of the firefighters is that they know the area, and teaching them the radio is not going to be hard. So the fire department has the potential of really supporting us, and hopefully we can help them too, because firefighters like their overtime.
You'll lose firemen, do you?
Well, that's something you got to think about because I'm a great boss now.
They don't like listening to it on the phone. They're still on the truck.
Yeah, they very quickly say, no, and I don't want to lose my day job. So that's where we are with staffing. There is a 911 Directors Affiliate Conference coming up in Ruidoso in September that I have managed to arrange to be at, even with our staffing, thanks to my team. They're pulling together so that I can go do that because there's going to be a lot of talk about state-supported programs. So looking forward to that. There is a leadership conference for 911 directors in October, and they have honored me by asking me to be one of the instructors. So I'm excited about that. It's one more thing to do, but it's just getting us out there. And yes, I did ask them to move those meetings here, but maybe next year. I forgot to mention, out of that meeting on Monday, we put together a suggestion box. So it's just a submission where they can give those thoughts, opinions, ideas, complaints, kudos, to make what we can fix better. And not 15 minutes after I sent it out, we had feedback. So I'm hoping we can just make them really happy and proud to work for us.
Big step, just people want to know that we listened to.
Yeah, exactly. So for my fellow department heads, if they give kudos for your departments, I'm going to send those out to you. Please pass those on. But I'm also going to be giving you things that would help support us too. So just be looking for that. And then on our radio project, I talked to the radio service at our board meeting last Wednesday. I told them it needed to be a priority. They promised me that it would be. So I'm hoping within 60 to 90 days, our consoles will be replaced in dispatch. And I'll stand for questions.
That's great. Sure, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions? Did I miss anybody? Public input? Anybody online have anything to say? You didn't read them all? Anybody else in the room have anything? Yes, ma'am.
This issue. I'm sorry, I didn't know y'all were gonna get off of that. But, there's a lot of concern that we're not being aggressive enough with how it's being handled. So back in 2016, this timber in the city jumped right in there and took action. And they had another building, they had Dr. Walker. They were actually quarantining the dogs, keeping everybody separate. It didn't take a long time to eradicate it that way. The first distemper dog was brought in to the shelter in June. And then we pulled that dog, and we were the first ones to let you all know, that we had found a case of distemper. I feel like if we had done something more severe at that time, we wouldn't be sitting where we're sitting right now. So we did write a letter to the city again after the second one that we got, because we didn't pull animals for 5 weeks. And everybody was saying, oh, it's looking good, we're not seeing anything. Well, 5 weeks later, the first 5 dogs that we pulled, 2 out of the ones we pulled ended up testing positive for distemper. 3 of them had major URIs. So we've seen several since then. And we kept asking, what are the plans? Started in mitigated. Are we closing intake? And at the answer, we're not closing intake, we're open to the public. So y'all kept adopting dogs out, and it happened more and more. That's where that lady came and adopted those 2 puppies. It ended up having it. No one even that there was a distemper scare. So in our letter on the 29th, we did express our concerns about it. And we gave the city several different places to get in touch with that specialize in shelter outbreaks. One of them was a lady from the University of Florida. And I know Chantel, we kept saying, that you need to try to get in touch with them, because they specialize on this stuff, So yesterday, I wrote to them, and within 2 hours, I had an answer. And she's willing to help, and would have been willing to help a long time ago. I don't even think the local vets are qualified to make decisions about it, because they're not used to handling large outbreaks in shelters. They're like one-on-one, that kind of thing. So these people actually specialize in that. And there's only about 4 places all over the country that specialize in the shelter outbreaks.
So the first instance we found, I thought we took pretty drastic measures, because she literally cleared out an entire whole section of kennels, and we put down, what was it, 17, 19 animals?
At the direction.
At the direction of the vets, and we thoroughly cleaned that area. And then we started giving the one, because as you know, they're vaccinated upon intake. Every animal is. So we thought that would, and we don't have a full outbreak at this point. We do have cases. I did visit yesterday. They're clean. He watches them on the camera. They clean. They're quarantining the intake dogs in that first garage part. They're not moving them into the general public.
Yeah, they are. They are.
When it's full.
We asked about that too.
When it's full.
When it's they're getting off the street.
Yeah, so aside of putting down every single animal there, that's the only thing we can do. If you want it done 100%, we have to put down every single animal and then start out. But that's the problem. That's what I'm saying. It's not the right thing to do. The problem we have is, and I sent you this text, is they could clean and get it eradicated completely. Then they go pick up a dog, and then it brings it in again. And the facility, as you know, it's not.
But if you're not really quarantining, if you're not really, and you're not, And plus, you know, y'all are still picking up just regular dogs off the street. It should have been more severe.
For animal control.
So our officers are on priority basis. So if we get a call from aggressive and we go out there and it's not aggressive, we still have to pick that up. So the person needs it in, they witnessed an aggressive dog, correct? So then we bring it into our early detection. When we send use, we send up at one extra count, that's at 11. If we get more in throughout the day, we end the day and make it 4 counts. On to the next day, right?
Okay. All I'm trying to say is that in order to stop it and make it a community problem, that we're gonna have to get more severe.
You did try to reach out. You want to talk about it? Yeah.
I did reach out to, I believe it's one of the first ones you sent me. We've been kind of going back and forth on email saying it's time to meet. The last one I sent, I believe was last week, but I haven't heard back. I couldn't give you the name right now, but I know it was like one of the first ones you sent me.
So at this point right now, what they're doing is they're doing what Best Friends taught them, and they're using the rescue cleaning solutions. And like if a dog was found with distemper, yeah, but they're not allowing the dog to go in the kennel. But the problem, you know, is the design of the kennel with that drainage system that runs through. If this dog way over here gets distemper, then this dog way down here may get it too, just because of the way that everything drains
Well,
down.
the big problem is animals are staying in the shelter way too long. When you have animals in that facility for over 30 days, everybody's going to get sick.
Yeah.
And that's a fact. And all the vets agreed, they're staying in the facility too long.
Because we're not a
They can't be
shelter.
there.
The cases that we have seen are dogs that have gotten distemper within the first few days they've been there.
But see, the thing is too, and I agree, I'm not saying the dogs don't spread it, but how do you know they didn't come in with distemper?
Well, if they came in for the first few days, it's a 10-day,
So what were you saying?
it's a 10-day incubation period, if I recall correctly.
That's what he told me.
And if they're coming in and 2 days into their stay with us, they start showing signs, they came in with it. Okay? I'm not saying that anything's not getting sick in the facility, but the facility is busting at its seams, and it is what it is. That's
Symptoms very the same as tip off, and you can't, you know, like the little dog in Colorado, just the test came. They thought it was chemical.
Well, on that first one you sent, we weren't positive 100% that it was distemper because it had upper respiratory infections too, at the top of it. So it's not an easy fix. And I just want to say they're doing their best. They're cleaning like crazy. They're like the dogs that had this.
You're bringing them.
What are we going to do though? We can't leave the dogs on the street. That's the problem.
That's what we're required to do. So with the general population, that unfortunately, so we have 11 few counts, correct? From 6 to 10, it was all white dogs. We cannot move those dogs. So that left us in such little space, and then the officers bring these other dogs in. They immediately have to get moved for these other dogs to go not into the feeding house. We already have dogs in the feeding house. We're bursting at the seams with such little.
If somebody calls in and says there's an aggressive dog on the street and we don't pick it up, the city is liable if that dog bites someone. I mean, we can't,
if we're able to catch it.
if we're able to catch
We
it.
were looking at intake pictures of the dogs that came in, and there's like 17 dogs within 2 days.
Yeah, and I know they're not all aggressive, but I
Most
like
of the pictures, they were on the back of the truck. They didn't even have a leash around them. Shaylin had said, you know, that they're going to move the bite dogs because, you know, they didn't want to risk or shelter people or employees. So, but these dogs were like in rooms, running around, they're holding their head up. You know, they're not violent, aggressive dogs.
See, the thing is, if we leave them out on the street, they'll starve, get hit by a car. There's no water out there. That's 105 degrees.
I understand that for regular times, but when you have an outbreak like this, it's really, really scary.
What officers do, if they get a call for an animal that's aggressive, we go see that dog. He's sweet running around. We leave that dog on the street. And to us, it was nice. But then it goes all the time. Then
I know that.
I have calls stating that, hey, they went to that one, it was aggressive, it was in the system as a, they left it in the boat.
As long as you have a place to quarantine them, they should be picked up. But you're bringing in animals at this point that are getting exposed to this.
And I completely agree with that. So if even with the public only in these aggressive animals, we need to have more resources for the public except for the shelter.
So my question to you is, if they say you want more room in the shelter, so they're quarantined, so they go and put 50 dogs down tomorrow, are you going to go on Facebook and slam them for putting 50 dogs down? Because you're wanting them to quarantine them. There's nowhere to quarantine them because the facility is completely full. It's already terrible. They're putting down as many as they have, but they have no choice. This is my, I understand what you're saying, and I guarantee you.
We have tried to have conversation with you all about it, open conversation. Not one person answered our letter with our concern, not one person. We sent it to everyone. Again, and this is probably the second time that it's happened. So when we're asking questions, we're saying we're concerned, other people are saying you need to get more drastic, you need to shut, your intake off, whatever you have to do, get another building, put the dogs there, do something.
You don't have the funding for that. That's the problem.
Or the staff.
Yeah. So I understand what you're saying. I just want you to know, we're concerned too. We're not happy about the situation. We're just upset about it.
Well, it's the way it's being handled, with you all saying, we're going to pick up the dogs, and they did tell us.
We have to. It's by law. We have to pick up the dogs. We're not a shelter. We are animal control. We're required to, control the animal population in the city. And I understand what you're saying. We don't want to pick them up either. But,
there are certain protocols that we do to get it.
Well, they do. They scan them for microchips. If they have a microchip, they take them to the house. They don't take them to the shelter, or not the shelter animal. They don't take them to animal control. They scan them, they take them to the home. And if they can't find the home, they'll ask around the neighbors and say, is this somebody's dog? If they don't know, then they have to.
I'm telling the public what is happening, because in my opinion, the city should have immediately in the very beginning done a press release and let the city know, don't let your dogs run around. Get your dogs vaccinated. We have active distemper, so that people would be more careful.
They did do this, that there was a distemper, but it's not the city's, I understand what you're saying. Let people know, but it's common sense. You have a dog, you keep it, you get it vaccinated, you keep it enclosed. We shouldn't have to be telling people that.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying, because I wish people would. That's why we're in the situation we are now with overcrowding, because people just aren't responsible. That's why I'm hoping once we start giving, changing the ordinance and actually giving citations out and prosecuting, that we can start fixing this problem.
The very first day that y'all put all of the dogs down, Mike did call me that morning and he told me there's 17 sick dogs and we're going to have to put them down. We completely, supported that. And I had said to Chantel one time before, your fully vaccinated dogs are the ones that we can help. And that day they put to sleep all of the.
Because they were in there so long.
The ones that were at risk were left.
They're in there way too long. And we're going to see maybe more cases, because when I went through yesterday, there's so many puppies, and you saw my post. There's way too many puppies, and they're most likely to get ill, even if they've been vaccinated. Right. The older dogs, I think over 8 months is what the vet said. So we're trying. Don't get me wrong. We are trying. I promise you. They care very much, and they're trying to do their best.
I don't think that they don't care.
Yeah, I know. But they are doing their best.
And I think that they're doing the best they can with what they've been given.
Yeah,
I do.
And yeah, Best Friends helped a lot with teaching them how to do the cleaning protocols. Doing it. Okay. I understand, and I'm sorry it's this way, but at this point.
Do you guys have any interested in talking to her at all?
Yeah, Chantel, why don't you
ask me if y'all have a veterinarian she could work with?
We don't have a vet, that whole situation, but maybe you can call her and talk to her, or one of you two. I don't care which one.
Yeah, no, if you want to give me her,
then we're supposed to have a Zoom call with her in the morning, because she's going to tell us what we need to do to get ours cleared, because 2 times We spent $4,000 on tests and getting our dogs cleared.
Yeah. Well, now you see why the city can't afford.
You know, the distemper case, and then when we pulled 5 weeks later, and then we had to, that had it, so we had to clear them again.
But you can see the cost is high, so that's why the city can't afford to.
Yeah, well, if we had somebody like the livestock board, if we had somebody that could do the spots and, you know, send it off the way it's supposed to be sent off, they're only $45 through the livestock.
Well, is that the full test? Because they're all going to show positive titers because they've all been vaccinated.
I think it's the full test.
I don't know for that cost. I've been told it's over 200. Because if we test any dog in there today, it's going to show positive because they vaccinate on intake. So that's.
Well, that's why you have to do the one.
Yeah, but we can't afford that. So if we could find the owners of the dogs and make them pay for it, I'd be happy to do that. Well, thank you, Sammy. And thanks for carrying. I know you do. So. Okay, anything else? We'll adjourn then. Thank you, everyone. Abby, you want the report? 7:30? Is it the?
I'm gonna go to my office. Get me some invite. You guys, I really wanted to talk to you, and so the two harder